All right, Leka. So for those of you, maybe if you're kind of newer into jiu-jitsu, Leka, three-time world champion, three-time pan champion, silver medalist, ADCC. You've kind of, you were not only hit the top of the mountain with jiu-jitsu, but you're one of the first, female athletes to go out there and compete. So can you tell me a little bit about like the early days of women's jiu-jitsu and competing in women's jiu-jitsu and maybe how you got started?
Well, the early days was rough for women because, as you might know, it was a male sport, and was very hard in the beginning to be accepted as a member of the team. And many guys from the school would tell me like, oh, women come and go, so maybe you one of those. Why it was basically they would find two reasons for me to be there, or because I wanna find a new boyfriend, or because I was a lesbian. So those are
Sure.
the reasons why women would do jiu-jitsu. And in the beginning it hurt me a lot because of course I started when I was 16 years old, and you're a teenager, so you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to find your identity still, and things like that will bother me and get to me. So when I start uh, training more and more, I think I got the respect from the group, and they saw that I was legit, and they kind of like it got behind me and helped me a lot. I had a lot of support. Of course, I had a lot of scrutiny too, but it's part of the game, and there is nothing you can do much back then. If you don't like it, your options are just to quit. Otherwise, you would be a creante, you can go to another schools. Or it was rough, it was very rough, but um I appreciate everything that happened to me before, because if it didn't happen, I wasn't the person that I am today, the teacher that I am today, the fighter that I am today. So it was all good. It was all part of the learning experience, part of the journey.
So what got you into training jiu-jitsu? Like you said, usually some girls that they're kind of there for other reasons, but you were a diehard competitor. What got you started, and then what kind of made you or help you make that transition from just somebody going to train to becoming like a full-time competitor, and especially one at like the top of the mountain?
So before jiu-jitsu, I used to play handball. It's like a European version of handball. So I was pretty good at it. I was gonna make. I was invited to the national team, but unfortunately, I had an ACL tear, and unfortunately, my ACL tear was just a partial tear. And when I went to the doctor, they like, oh, there is nothing I can do about it because it's a partial tear. There is nothing we can do about a partial tear. You have to wait until become a full tear,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then we can have surgery, and then we go from there. So the position that I play, handball is a very rough game, very physical, and I couldn't do the moves that I used to do when I play impossible because my knee buckled. I tried, but my knee buckled. Was like every time my knee buckled was like extremely painful, and was very very hard on my body. Then I stopped doing that, and then I'm like, I have to find something that I like, and I have to get into something. So I was like kind of like getting a little bit overweight, not much, but just a little bit of weight. And I'm like, I have to find something that I like to do. So back in the day, my brother used to do taekwondo. So he's like, oh, let's do taekwondo too, whatever, whatever, whatever. So I went to the taekwondo class. I liked it, and but then I had this friend that was bothering me so much. Oh, dude, you have to come and try jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is awesome. Jiu-jitsu is dope, and all these things. And I'm like, dude, I don't want be like grabbing people. What if you have to
Yeah.
grab their butts? It's very uncomfortable. I want nothing to do with that. And
Yeah.
she was like, please, 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 just one class. If you do one class, if you don't like it, I'll never bother anymore. I said, okay, whatever, I'm gonna go. So I went to try, and was like that day they were doing takedowns, and I was like so fascinated how like a small person could throw like a big person. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And
Awesome.
I got into it, and I was able to do a few takedowns, and obviously like drilling, and I was like, wow, I'm not even using my power, and I'm throwing this guy like a big guy. So that fascinated me. Like I was in love, like it was love at first sight. I was like very, very amazed how um was an art, was a smart game, was something that you don't need to use your power, but at the same time you have to use a lot of your brains. It was incredible for me. Was what fascinated me and what got me hooked to do jiu-jitsu.
And then what, like, how did you make that transition really, like, from becoming like a hobbyist that was just training? Because I know in Brazil, like we, like the gringos, we think everybody does jujitsu. We think everybody's a fighter. We think everybody's competing. Like when I went to Brazil, to visit my wife's family, my father-in-law was just like, "Why are you doing jujitsu?" like it's not as common as we think, right? So surely not everyone's competing. So what made you transition from being somebody there, just as a sport and a hobby, to becoming a full-time athlete?
I in my life I always been competitive. Doesn't matter. I had two brothers. I have two brothers older than me, so we compete. We used to compete for everything. So it's a nature. I don't think. I think some people they just born like that. They become like competitors. Like I have to compete for everything. I was like the younger one, so I have to compete for the toy that I want. I want in fighting. I have to fight my brothers all the time. So it was like it's a spirit. I think it was with me when obviously I play handball. I was a competitor too. I done a lot of competition. So I think it was something that was with me. And the most important thing for me is it's falling in love with what you're doing. So I really fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So I wanted to do. I quit school. I don't recommend that, but I remember
Uh,
being um, first year of high school. I just quit school. I was like, I wanted to train 3 times a day, and obviously one of those times was in the morning when school was going on, and I was like, I don't have time for that because school, of course, is very, very important. I have two kids. I can't stress how important is school, but school sometimes they don't value your ability, and I was always very athletic. And especially in Brazil, if you want to be an athlete, it's like, you lazy, you don't want to
yeah.
go to school and blah blah blah. So it was within me. So it was that's the reason why.
So training in Brazil, you were at Dojo Academy, correct? And did
Yes.
you start? And eventually you moved to the States, but in Brazil you were there, and then from not mistaken, you did a little training at Gracie Maita with Leticia. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe like competing at that time, being in Brazil and competitions, and maybe hooking up with Leticia.
Yeah. When you were the only women on your school back in the day, male sports, and in a place that they don't take women, like, was all men. So it's like, what are you doing here? So every single day I have to compete. Every single day I have to kill a lion. So it was a hostile environment where I always have to prove myself. I always have to prove myself. So it was very frustrating in the beginning, because in the beginning I was trying to prove myself to others. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. But then when I start realizing that I don't have to compete against them, I have to use them as a tool for my development. So I don't have to worry about the times that I got my butt kicked, which was a lot, because obviously I was a woman, I was light, so it was very hard for me. But it's like I said, it's part of the journey. I'm not gonna whine about anything that happened in the past. I start at this school dojo in 1992. I went all the way to my black belt in 1998, and I felt that was time for a change, and I developed a very good friendship with Leticia. I believe maybe 1995. So from 1995 and on, we start training together. I would visit her school sometimes, and she visits my school sometimes. We exchange information, exchange skills and training and ideas. And like I said, in 1998, I decided I wanted to do something new or different that I was doing. So I start training with her at Grace Humaitá. I stayed there for 2 or 3 years, because after that I moved to United States. And when I moved to United States, it's funny, but it was like three schools. It was Hardy and Gracie, was the Machados, it was Hickson, and I think Jean-Jacques too. That's it. That was the only jiu-jitsu schools in California back in the day. So as I end up in South Bay in Redondo Beach, so I went to train with him. He gave an opportunity to train with him and also have a female class.
Yeah, and then you eventually developed a big female team back in the day, the Machados, like Felicia O, Cindy Omatsu. Can you tell me a little bit about that, like how that kind of started, and you gave some black belts out, female black belts. Let's talk through that.
Yeah, the first time I came to California was in 1998, and I gave a seminar at Riga Machado School, and I met. Higan had like a good, I would say like 8 or 10 females, and I had a chance to meet them, and then we develop a friendship. And the reason why I'm here today was because they were like, man, you have to come here, you have to live here, you do great here and things like that. And I ended up coming in 1999, 2000, and ended up training them. So it was very good both ways. I think it was very good for them to learn from me, but it was very good for me to be able to have a chance to teach there and teach them. They great females. They love the sport just as much as I do. So it was a great exchange.
So backtracking a little bit, the first World Championship, 1996. They didn't have female divisions at that time, right? So, am I correct? So,
Yeah.
what was the first year that they had the female?
The first year that they have the female competition was in 1998. I
Okay.
was a brown belt back then.
And what was the feeling like competing in that event, and competing in the first women's world championship, and talk a little bit about how you did. I mean, I know there's some video out there of it, and you fought awesome. It was, it's always exciting to see those old school matches. But tell us a little bit about that experience, about becoming one of the first world champions in jiu-jitsu.
Well, in 1998, the first time that they allow women to compete, the world championship was funny, because it was like kind of like I felt like we were segregated, and then it was the first time that we couldn't compete and be in the same stage as the man. I was a brown belt back then in 1998. Actually, 1998 was the first time they let women compete. I was a brown belt, and the competition was blue to black. So
Wow.
I remember that was tough, because people say whatever they want to say, right? Sometimes they say, "Oh, was easier back in the day." It's not easy to pave the way. It's not easy at all,
Yeah.
because you have to figure it out for yourself. So you have to fight blue to black. So imagine being a brown belt and moves to a white belt, or
Yeah.
for a blue belt and things like
Yep.
that. What's the first thing gonna come to anybody else's mind? Oh, she sucks. I knew it, because I was very like I was ahead of my time. So I remember getting the brown belt, and the scrutiny that was like, oh, you're crazy. How can you give a brown belt to a female? It's not real. It's fake. She's not even good. Blah blah blah. So you had to fight out. You have to fight whoever's in front of you inside the match, but you have to fight all this scrutiny outside the mats too. And like I said, you have to kill a lion a day because you have to prove yourself every single day. You have to prove that you belong there. You have to prove if you can make mistakes, because when you make mistakes, they're gonna point fingers at you and say, "See, I told you, women cannot be a brown belt, whatever, whatever, whatever." But you learn how to deal with that. Like I said, it's a process. You have to learn how to deal with those things. So I remember my first world championship. I had, I believe, 2 or 3 fights, but I got disqualified because in my last match, I got in a fight, like in an argument with my opponent, and I ended up being disqualified. So back that year, we didn't have any females that were black belt and became world champions. So that year, I just got disqualified in my match, and whatever was all. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was having good fights, but in my last fight I got disqualified.
And then you went back in '99, and then you got the gold, right?
Yeah, in '99, in 1998, right after there was this competition called the Oscar of Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a huge competition, and I was fortunate to win my fight. And the day after my fight, I got my black belt. So it's kind of like was kind of like a reality check for me. I was like, now I'm a black belt. Now I have to represent. Now I have to I used to train 3 times a day. I went to 4 times a day. I spent 6 hours on the mats. I had a great work ethic. I wanted to be the best I could be. I didn't want to be better than you or better than anyone else. I just wanted to be the best I could be. And in 1999, I came back with the mentality and the mindset of redemption, because obviously after I got disqualified, a lot of people were saying like, oh, I was bad for the sport because I talked trash and I was too aggressive and I'm a bad representation and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So I have to kind of redeem myself, stay with myself, improve to myself, and prove everybody wrong. So, and I was fortunate enough to be able to win as a black belt, and was the first time, a female black belt was able to be a world champion.
Okay, so I got a couple things I got to ask. So first of all, the Oscar Jiu-Jitsu, was that the one where Royce and Valich fought, that was on the one on the Copacabana beach there?
Yes.
So you fought Gigi's wife?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, and when you went into '99, from what I see on the tape, you were aggressive. Obviously, '98 you got DQ'd, but watching you compete, beautiful double legs, right to mount to passing to submission. That's a beautiful thing to see in the sport. You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like now the jiu-jitsu, obviously it's changed tremendously, but do you kind of look at it now like, wow, like, do you feel like it's missing something? Like, do you feel like it's missing that kind of that raw exchange, starting from the takedowns and more starting on the feet, or are you content with how things are right now?
No, I believe that we're missing the aggressiveness. I think everybody should be aggressive. Everybody should fight to win, and don't worry about losing, because you can only control what you can control. Okay, you have to train super hard. This is the things that you can control: your training, your work ethic. When you go out there, you have to go for a fight. You're not going to control the outcome. You don't know if you're going to win, and you don't know if you're going to lose, and you shouldn't be worried about those things. You should just be worried about execution. Go hard. Try to execute a good game and win. And that's how you should have in your mind when you compete. Go for the win and go for the execution. Like, believe in yourself and believe in everything that you do every single day. And obviously, like I said, I'm honest with you right now. I can't watch most of the fights because they're boring. I think 10 minutes is too long, and I think an advantage is not a good thing for the sport. I mean, I have my point of view, right? When I used to fight back in the day, you can slam, was more aggressive? Did I have an advantage? And it was more aggressive. And Ricardo, for me, it's very hard because I am aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't hold back. I'm gonna go there and I wanna do what I do. I don't wanna be like, I don't wanna look cute. I don't wanna win by advantage. I wanna bring it. And I think everybody should have this mentality because it will make it more exciting. And again, if you lose that way, you're gonna feel great because you left out on the mat. You don't have anything to be like driving home and be like, I should have, I could have. Just go all out.
You put it all out there. You put it all out there, and you have no regrets.